Welcome to the Digital Dreaming Off the Gridiron podcast. It is your host, Asif Ali, joined by my co-host of the most, number 24, Cortez Branch Jr., and we are fresh off a Wildcard weekend, off of another beautiful, enticing, amazing Raw on Netflix, off of SmackDown. Let's get right into it, brother. What was your take on Wildcard weekend and Raw, and talk to me about what really stood out to you over this last week?
Well, it's very apparent that with Wildcard Weekend that there are some teams that need some help, and I feel like the Denver Broncos got overmatched, and that's really all that one came down to. Is they had a good shot, but they just got overmatched when it really came down to it. I feel like I don't know what it is about big games in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their inability to like close out games that they won. You know what I mean? Like that game was over.
Right.
That game was over. You know what I mean? Like, I, that's really all I can put it with the comes to that game was over. That fumble at towards the end of that game that didn't need to happen. You know what I mean? Um, there was no stopping the Eagles and there was no stopping Baltimore. Let's just call it what it is. There was no stopping the Eagles and there was no stopping Baltimore. They were gonna do that
Yeah.
regardless. They were gonna do that regardless, and that's really what we got to realize. Sometimes teams are legitimately overmatched, and it's going to be a rough road for anybody playing against Baltimore. As far as the Chargers go, get Justin Herbert some help. Those guys couldn't catch a cold. Even Lad McConkey had some very key drops, and I like Lad McConkey. He's going to be a staple. He was only a rookie this year, so you can't blame him for too much of that. But they get Justin Herbert some help. I think after Harbaugh gets done with his hip replacement and his other surgery, then those guys are going to be trying to retool for the next season. I do mark my words. If the Chargers can stay healthy at all, keep Justin Herbert off the injury list, and get him maybe another receiver and maybe a running backs that's gonna be able to stretch the field a little bit, then I feel like they're gonna be some legitimate contenders in years to come. Maybe not immediately next year. They'll make some noise next year, you know. But I think this also goes to show everyone that the seating is still messed up, just like it was a decade ago. We complained about it. The seating is still messed up. Minnesota lost a heartbreaker. You know, the rest of the teams, I think, are going to do what they're going to do. I think that Kansas City might be out the next round, though. I'm not going to count them out because it's the NFL and it is money making, but I think Kansas City might be out the next round.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm gonna. Yeah, your first point was massive. Obviously, Tampa Bay did have that game, in the jaws of they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, basically, but you know
And
what?
they keep doing it. They did it when Tom Brady was there. It's
Yeah, no, I mean, if Tom Brady wasn't there, that franchise would be doomed to irrelevancy for like the however many years to the last Super Bowl win. I mean, 49ers have been relevant in terms of making the Super Bowl, but Tampa Bay, after they won that game, they were one of the bottom feeders of the league
yeah,
before
man.
Brady got there. So back to kind of that game though, Jaden Daniels. I mean, let's talk about that milestone. Jaden Daniels not only won the game, he snapped a 20-year postseason losing streak for the Washington Commanders, who basically now have won their first playoff game and since 2005. So that's
Yeah.
incredible to think about. Obviously Mark Brunell was a quarterback back then. Mark Brunell is now coaching the Lions as the quarterbacks coach. So it's going to be interesting to see because now we can talk about obviously the next round, which is happening day after tomorrow, right? The divisional match playoffs, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
KC, and obviously, sorry, before we transition, I want to say one more thing about wildcard weekend that stood out. The Rams. Obviously, I'm here in California. My heart goes out to anyone and everyone who's been affected by the fires in LA. Obviously the Rams, winning that game was a huge game, right? About Sam Darnold, but obviously that guy right there, number 13, it's pretty obvious why the Niners decided to keep him and let Sam Darnold go because Brock Purdy may not have the arm that Sam Darnold does, but Brock Purdy definitely is a better processor and also a better, decision maker. Especially because Darnold was holding onto that ball for dear life, and he just
I
couldn't.
feel like I'm going to agree with you, and not to interrupt you, but I noticed this about certain players. They're just they're just not good in the big moment. Like they can go through the motions of the entire season and win the entire season. But that moment when they realized, okay, it's the playoffs, it just got real. They're just some of those guys just never get past that hump, bro.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean,
Romo was like that, wasn't he?
yeah.
You can't
Well,
say Tony Romo was a bad quarterback. Tony Romo was a great quarterback. He just playoffs.
exactly.
Playoffs, playoffs did it to Tony Romo, man. Like it's the same. It's the same thing with these guys.
Exactly. So no, that's
It,
exactly it. I think for me, I look at it from the perspective of kind of what you just touched upon, the playoffs. And obviously, like we just said, right? Sam Darnold, obviously looked, really bad, but he looked great all regular season. The Vikings were what, 13-4, 14-3, whatever they were, right?
14-2.
14, or yeah, 15, or no, it's 14-3 because 17 games, right? It would be 14-2 with a 16
Well,
game schedule, right? So, I mean, the Vikings.
no, because they got that extra because it's bye week.
Oh, that's right.
It's
14
yeah,
and 2.
17.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
and again, I think, that's kind of, again, and I think Sam Darnold, like you said, like Tony Romo, right? Just playoffs. That's kind of really that was the Achilles heel.
playoffs,
I mean,
playoffs.
that's why Brock Purdy is going to command a large extension this offseason, regardless of what everyone
Because
says.
he wins playoff games.
Exactly. Unless what you do in January, what you do in February, that's really, I mean, if you get to February, that's what counts, right?
That's the argument right now that's going on in the offseason is about Mike Tomlin. Yeah, you've had 10 you've had no losing seasons ever, but you make it to the playoffs and you don't win. They haven't won a game in the playoffs in what, six appearances?
8 years. Eight
So
years. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
8 years in 8 years they haven't won a playoff game, and
Yeah.
that's what everybody's gonna like. We're gonna bring this down to, you know. I really do. I'm going to ask you this question because it's a little bit more towards the other section that we're going to.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about JJ McCarthy's statement right like 15 minutes after the game was over?
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's a young buck, he had to make that statement. And, I think he's hungry. You know what I mean? He's hungry. So, I mean, sitting out, missing his entire rookie season, now obviously coming back from injury, I think there's going to be something, there's the chip on his shoulder, something to prove. So, I think it'll be interesting, to see, because obviously Minnesota has not really shown that they've been kind of non-committal to Sam Darnold on the extension, even before the playoff game. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that shapes out, because I mean they could go any different
Yeah,
way, with JJ and everything. So it's gonna be interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. Now let's like you said, let's get there. Now let's talk about the divisional, right? You mentioned the Chiefs potentially getting upset. I can see that too. You mentioned the Chargers out being. So the question I have for you is, are the Houston Texans contenders or pretenders? Because they dominated the Chargers, but for the majority of that game, it was a pretty chippy game up until like near the end of the fourth, when they sealed the deal. Justin Herbert looked terrible, 3 picks. He had the worst game. I think voted by Pro Football Reference by all the fans and all the experts, right, at PFF.
well, I mean, two of those picks that they should have caught those.
Well, yeah, I mean, two of the picks. I mean, like it was just literally the
They were
receiver getting,
deflections.
yeah, the receiver Quentin Johnson, Quentin Johnson. And my buddy's a Chargers fan, so he's like QJ needs to hit the jugular machine every day. Quentin Johnson basically getting beat, letting the man get in front of him, right?
Yes,
I mean, he was just, I
but
don't
like
know.
if you look at the ball placement, the ball was put in the right spot.
It's just the receiver couldn't get there. I mean,
Yeah, and then
ultimately, if
and
the
on
receiver,
Latin McConkey's, like it went right through both hands, bro. Like if it goes straight through the middle of both, like you're a receiver, like if this little miniature football goes right through both of my hands, like if I'm through there, I'm supposed to catch that football. Like it's not supposed to go through and hit me in the face. It's not
index,
supposed to bounce off my helmet, hit me in the chest, like you're talking about. It hit him. It literally went through his hands, hit him in the chest, bounced off, and into a defender's hands.
index fingers tight, baby. That's what Coach Dub taught us, and JUCO and everything. Index fingers tight. And
My
you
daughter
can't
told
hear
me I needed a stress ball, and that's where this came from. So
pinkies tight. No, but to that point, no, 100%, bro. You're right. Like you got to catch that, and you can't get beat. It's the playoffs. You have to make the plays. You have to that extra gear. I just didn't see it from.
exactly,
The extra gear wasn't there, and
exactly.
kind of let's talk about your. This kind of ties into your Bears. It looks like the Chargers really were missing Keenan Allen. Losing Keenan Allen this offseason to have him go to the Chicago Bears Could you imagine if Justin Herbert had a healthy Keenan Allen? Maybe it would have been a closer game. Maybe they would have won that game. I don't
I
know.
mean, they probably would have won it because you would have been able to once again control the field.
You can control the field. You can stretch the field with Keenan Allen, but I would say that I don't know if they would have won it per se because that defense was still harassing Herbert all day. And I mean, it was D'Amico Ryan's masterclass performance, a masterclass game plan. CJ Stroud's
I'm gonna
first
tell
play.
you how to win. I'm gonna tell you how to win right now.
Talk to me.
I would sign a running back. I would sign another receiver or two. I would draft offensive line. And then I would look for either a veteran DB or a middle linebacker that could give my defense a little bit of pop and oomph. And that's how you win with that team. If I'm the Bears, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fire Virginia McCaskey, which is not possible because she owns the team. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fire the general manager because let's face it, he's never built an offensive line that's conducive for a quarterback winning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna pick up some offensive line. If I'm the Chicago Bears, I only need one thing, and that's the offensive line. If
So,
a
right.
head coach and an offensive line.
Head coach, offensive line. But sorry, I don't want to get off track. I want to just kind of focus on the Texans. So you're saying what I'm saying, that the Texans, the Chargers beat themselves. They made too many
Oh,
self-defeating
look,
mistakes.
I'm not going to hate against Ohio State's finest, but yeah, he's won a playoff game and Justin didn't. So Ohio State's finest.
Yeah,
We know where Spencer Rattler what he was doing this year.
yeah.
So
ATL.
so we're gonna go and say that yeah, the Texans enjoy your win. It's not gonna happen in the next round. You're gonna get destroyed.
But
If
you
the
just
Texans
said, before we dissect this, you said the Chiefs are going to get upset next round. So I mean, I
Well, here's the
actually,
thing. I think
yeah,
the Texans defense, if they can harass Patrick Mahomes, they will win. Here's the
yeah.
problem. Do you know how difficult it is to harass Patrick Mahomes?
Well,
If you're
and
not a
the reason why is because the Chiefs' offensive line. I'm going to sound like a salty ass Niners fan, but I was there for the Super Bowl, so I'm going to say it again. The refs let them get away with holding.
there's
So
only one team that's ever been able to harass the offensive line, and that was a Tom Brady led team. And I'm going to tell you, CJ Stroud is not the same type of leader as Tom Brady, and it's because he's younger and because it's just how it is. Veterans will lead a team better than a rookie. And that's no shots at any rookies. It's just that when you're a proven veteran, you're able to lead better because people believe in that. And I'm telling you, guys will give you an extra gear that they did not have if you weren't there. So of course the Tom Brady led teams were able to do damage to the Kansas City teams because they believed in Tom Brady. And I'm saying if Tom Brady was your quarterback, you would believe in him too.
100% no, but I think kind of to the point, like you said about the youth, right? I think now that CJ Stroud has won last season, now he has another game under his belt this season, so he has two playoff wins. There may be some advantage. Obviously, the Chiefs are I mean, they look good, but they haven't looked great, all year. So I mean, we'll see. Maybe the Texans, they come in, like you said, they have to come in with a full, like I said, harass Patrick Mahomes. The secondary has to play great. Derek Stingley Jr. is one of the best. He's a phenomenal corner. You saw what he did against Justin Herbert this last week, and we'll see what he can do against Mahomes, right? And the Chiefs receivers. So it's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you though with your later pick. I mean, my heart says Texans, my head says Chiefs, so that's kind of where I'm going that
Yes,
direction.
I'm with you on that one. Like my heart says go Texans because they're not the Dallas Cowboys, number one. And number two, I can believe in the Texans a whole lot more than the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I'm gonna bring that point up in a second, but yeah, I think it's the NFL. The Chiefs are probably going to beat the Texans. Enjoy the fact that you guys beat, you know, Justin Herbert, in his Chargers, and Harbaugh's first year. And I wouldn't say they made it look easy, but the Chargers definitely made the victory a whole lot sweeter for the Texans than it probably would have been if they would have been playing at their full potential. Uh, man, I will say this much though. This next round is about to get chippy.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get chippy. So we just called the Texans Chiefs. Now let's talk about the Rams. Going into Philly.
I feel like they're gonna get stomped. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Philly.
I feel like Cooper Cup and Puka Nacua and Stafford will get their rocks off, but I think Philly's a little bit too tough.
Okay. So where was you picking Philly? I think I'm gonna agree with you. Saquon Barkley having that all time year at home at Philly. Rams played them tough when they played. But I think actually no, did they win? No, they didn't win. The Eagles beat them. So I will go with the Eagles too. I'm gonna go probably be like I could probably because I couldn't call that first game. I'm gonna call this game. I'm gonna say 27-24 Eagles over Rams.
Yeah, I might even go 27-20 or 27-21, or I might even do a 28-21. Some kooky. I don't think it's a high scoring game.
No, it's not gonna be high scoring. No, it's gonna be something weird. So okay, that's cool. All right, Lions Commanders rookie
I
situation.
Jaden Daniels' magic story ends this weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, because it's been such a great run. I
Yeah,
love watching him play. His leadership, his poise, his character.
the
But
Lions are getting back David Montgomery. They have other guys that are doing the exact same thing. They have guys that could run sideways, guys that could jump upside down. They have, a million receivers just like they did in the old days. And they got a quarterback with ice in his veins that's got a lot to prove. And they got a coach that just makes his team believe they're the 300 Spartans in the Battle of Thermopylae. You know what I'm saying? Like they just have the mentality that they're going to beat people into the ground. And I've said this for years right here on the DDOG podcast that the intensity and the passion that you bring to the field when you go out there to play will translate in how your games go if you truly believe in what you're doing and if you continue with that same level of intensity. And I don't think that since Campbell has taken over that the Lions have turned down at all. Are they beatable? Yes, but I think that right now this is the best they've ever been. And I say this to many people that are going to hate the fact that I'm going to say this because we love the Barry Sanders era. But this is the best the Lions have ever been. They have one of the best records that it's ever been. And I don't know if they go past this year, I don't know if they can replicate this type of success.
that's exactly it. And I think kind of to that point, I mean, what you said about Dan Campbell, that point is so massive because you see how they play with all the injuries. Aiden Hutchinson going down, Alex Anzalone going down. You mentioned David Montgomery. I think they have, was it 20 players on
Yes.
IR? I mean, what are the
Yes.
of those? I believe 10 plus are starters, either on defense or offensive side of the ball,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
still found ways to win. I
Yes.
mean,
This is when coaching and leadership that like I said before, you can take an average player and make him a good player. You can take a good player and make him a great player. You can take a great player and make him legendary if you can provide the amount of intensity, the amount of passion, that belief that I can be better than I was yesterday. If you can give that player and that's what I think that Campbell and the rest of his team they give to these players. And the players that are on the field, they're doing it for the other players as well. Like, okay, he sees the greatness in me. And because he sees the greatness in me, I'm gonna let that greatness out. And just like what did not happen for Minnesota, because Minnesota theoretically should have beat the crap out of them last week.
right.
Theoretically. But there's a certain amount of intensity that comes with playing this sport. And a lot of times that intensity and that passion for what you're doing is going to win out because simply because you want it more than the guy across from you. And I think that in the Minnesota LA game, LA just had more to prove. They had all that stuff going on. Everybody was cheering. Everybody was praying for them. Everybody was LA strong. And just like when a country goes to war, and it's not a political channel, by the way, but just when a country goes to war and you elicit a certain type of patriotism, the same type of thing happens in sports. Is if you can bring guys together, they have a chance because and that's really what it comes down to. And Minnesota didn't do that. LA did. Detroit's been doing it for years, and I don't think that Washington, ironically, is a not a house divided when it comes to being able to get there. I think that there's a lot of people that still don't believe. And there's a lot of people that just want to halfway believe. But if you halfway believe versus guys that think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, you're going to get beat. And I think that's what's going to happen. They're talking about magic. No, they've been talking about magic in Washington all week, and I've been watching it over and over, every different channel. I ain't heard that about Detroit. I've heard Detroit say, we busted our tails and we're going to keep busting our tails, and then we're going to bust yours because we busted ours.
100%. And I think that was evidence, in the NFC Championship rematch back on the on New Year's Eve day, the 30th of December was like 2 weeks ago, literally. When they came to Levi's to take on the Niners, and it was a shootout, but the Lions still came out on top. And the Dan Campbell halftime speech was like, we know what San Fran's about. We know what they're about. They're a good team. So, that's kind of it. That motivation, that, like you said, that belief, starts from top down, from
Yeah,
the coach. And I
it's
think
literally from the top down.
exactly. And I think kind of to your other point, which is so massive, I think, no, I mean, the Commanders, great run, great story, everything, right? But I mean, the Lions are now they're in the driver's seat in the NFC conference where they felt like they should have won last year. They should have made it to the Super Bowl last year and potentially should have beat the Chiefs. You know, now here they are again, and now now instead of being the 2 seed, they're the 1 seed, and they're rocking. I mean, they're ready to go. And Campbell, I mean, coach of the year, what have you? I mean, it's a tremendous turnaround job for an otherwise unknown franchise up there in Detroit. So obviously, I'm excited to watch this game. I'm going to go with Lions, and I'm going to go Lions 34-21 over the Commanders.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Lions Ravens Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's going to touch it. But what's your final score for this game before we get to our last matchup?
Lions, Commanders, I'm going to go 24-30, 24-38.
There we go. All right, close game. Last but not
Or
least, well, not close. I mean, same
30,
margin.
35, 35, 24, 38. It just depends on the defense there. That's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, because so many injuries for the Lions, and we have to see who comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last game, like you mentioned, you kind of segued into it. Ravens at Bills, the marquee matchup of the weekend. Lamar Jackson taking on Josh Allen. These two had faced each other, I believe, was it 3-4 years ago, 2021, when
Yeah.
Josh Allen was able to beat Lamar Jackson. It was 17-3 or something like that. Lamar Jackson is now 7-6 in the postseason. He's trying to get that, can't win in January label off of his back, like you mentioned about promo. Lamar's trying to avoid that. Josh Allen, obviously, and basically these two are like two of the top three quarterbacks in the NFL. Top four, if you want to consider Joe Burrow. So, what is your take on this game, and what are you looking for? And talk to me, brother, about what you're predicting.
This game might be the first game in a while that's hit 100 points.
Ooh.
And the reason why I say this is because both of these are very fast scoring teams. And if you guys notice the drives, the Bills have one of the highest scoring totals of the season. If this would have been a Bills Bengals, they would have hit 100 points easy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same for the Ravens. The only thing that would slow this down is if the Ravens can make the Bills one dimensional, which I don't think is possible. I'm just being realistic, guys. I don't think it's possible to make either one of these teams one dimensional because both these guys like running and both these guys like throwing the football and both these guys have supporting cast that will catch and run with the football, that will just run with the football. They both have good offensive lines. They both have good defenses. And I think that's really going to come down to which quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes and which team does not waste their downs. The team that punts the least in this game, I know that's not always the case, but the team that punts the least is the team that's going to win this game.
Yeah. No. I mean, and now that I think about it, obviously the Ravens beat the Bills 35-10 back in week 4, I believe. So, I mean, the Bills are they have that game. They have that game in the back of their minds. They have that embarrassment in the back of their minds because that was on Sunday Night Football. So the whole nation was watching. I think it's going to come down to who wants it more. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
I mean,
this might come down to the last possession.
Absolutely. And it's, who executes, who makes, like you said, the least mistakes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might this might be an upset, but I'm picking the Bills to win this game against Baltimore. I'm picking the Bills to beat the Ravens, 24-20 or 21.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that assumption. I think it's either going to be incredibly difficult for either team to score, or it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, no, I mean it could be good. It can go either way. I won't be surprised if the Ravens win. I
Yeah,
won't be surprised if the Ravens blow them out. I won't be
yeah,
surprised if the Bills win. I won't be surprised if the Bills will blow them out. That's honestly
yeah.
how
Like
crazy the year has been. I mean, it's
yeah, like
insane.
and to be honest, like I'm not necessarily saying I'm not a fan of the individuals, but like they're not my team. Neither team is. So I can honestly say that like I won't be surprised with either one of those outcomes. I can see both of those outcomes.
Mhm.
I'm just hoping that it's an entertaining game to watch. To be honest, I hope it's not a defensive battle. That's just the offensive guy in me. The defensive guy in me doesn't want to see that while I'm watching it. Playing, yes. A defensive battle while I'm playing is amazing. I don't want to see a whole bunch of incomplete passes and tackles for loss in this game on either side. I wanted to see an entertaining football game where two teams come to beat the crap out of each other.
And Lamar Jackson was on record to say, Josh is my friend, he's my boy, my buddy, but not this weekend. I want to beat him. So
Oh yeah, say I saw that interview. He said he wants to whoop his butt. He said I don't
he's
hang
gonna
out with
whoop
him
his
during the
ass,
season.
man. Let's see. Let's see. All right,
I
Action
don't hang out
Jackson.
with these guys. I don't talk to them during the season. He goes, I'm trying to beat them.
Exactly. And it's interesting because Lamar is, I believe, the first team All Pro. Josh Allen's second team All Pro. So one of these two guys are going to come out with the MVP, most likely, if not Saquon.
Yeah,
So
and that's why I think that the NFL MVP voting is a little delayed because they want to see what these guys do in the playoffs.
exactly. So it'll be interesting to see who does what and who executes. So that wraps it up for divisional weekend recap. Anything from WWE that you want to touch upon?
Um, I mean, SmackDown was like it wasn't a throwaway show. I liked the debut of Penta on Raw. Um, obviously we're going to be able to see some more happening tomorrow,
George Kittle.
but yeah, you're gonna see some more of that. And I think that the road to WrestleMania is just about to get started. And because what Rumble's what 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away,
2 weeks, man. It's coming up.
and then we got the Elimination Chamber after that. And I'm not looking for too many things to change storyline wise over the next couple of weeks. I think that everything ramps up after the Rumble. As far as I think right now, WWE is more focused on the mid card than anything else. I thought that there was a pretty good match between Penta and Gable. You can see that Penta was still getting used to WWE's ring style because, as you guys are well aware of, WWE doesn't use cables. Everyone else uses cables. So some of his moves are a little bit off, but that's because WWE uses ropes. And, in a lot of the other companies, including AEW, they use cables. And I think TNA uses cables. I think almost everyone does because it's cheaper
Yeah.
and
No,
easier to set
absolutely.
up. But
Yeah.
but the WWE is still old school. They still use the old school ropes. They make their own ropes, which is I find that to be a very admirable old school quality. Because every company used to have to build their own ring.
Yeah.
But a lot of the indie companies just buy a standard set, pre-made. And the AEW is still using cables, and it's kind of obvious the way that people move on the cables versus the ropes. And I'm not saying that Penta didn't practice or didn't get, but you got to think he's been doing something one way for 20 years plus, and now he's got to do it. He's 39 years old. He's not a spring chicken. He's not new. You know what I mean? And but it was a great match. They had a great dancing partner. They tweaked Gable's music a little bit and gave him more of like he's like it's like if you were gonna listen to Kurt's music, but like they reversed the highs and the lows. So I'm still on the of the opinion that they just need to bring Kurt and work with Gable and then basically bless him with the song.
Yeah.
But even Gable's ring attire is starting to resemble Kurt's a lot more often. And nothing wrong with that either. I think that's a great tribute to his idol because that's his idol. I think that's a great tribute to it. But I really just think that there's one piece missing from Gable, and but the match was great. They both performed amazingly. Penta still got the stamina. He still got the go in him. I think that you got to see. So I call it the Michaels moment.
Yeah.
The boyhood dream realized, the Brett moment, that moment when they realized they finally did it. You know what I mean? And Penta had his dream moment. His WrestleMania moment happened on Raw. And I'm not saying that he won't have plenty more, but yeah,
Mhm.
his WrestleMania moment happened on Raw. Um, I will address the women's division. What the hell are you guys doing with Bailey? Like, and anytime you guys put Bailey on TV, and it's not because I don't like Bailey, but anytime you guys put Bailey on TV, I'm becoming less and less interested in seeing anything that has to do with Bailey. And it's not because I don't think that she's attractive or anything like that. I wish people would stop thinking about that first. It's just that Bailey's character is increasingly more disingenuous as time goes on. And I don't know if she was more believable as a Karen style heel or if, but the ding dong dummy stuff is just like, this is not 1989, 90, or 91. Like, it's not suffering succotash era Bailey. Like, you're not the hugger anymore. It's not cute when you're starting to get that old anyway, but I think that she's got to find like a more authentic character on television. And I don't think that she's like not goofy in real life. I think she's probably plenty goofy. I just think that like she turns up the goofy a little bit, and it comes off as like being cartoonish
Yeah.
when everybody else is like having a real style of communication in the ring. Like I think one of the best communicators in the ring is I hate to say it, but it's true. It's Nia Jax. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they give her garbage to work with, but at the same time, it's like she turns it great, and it comes off as okay. You know, she's really one of those. You know what I'm saying? So I like that. I don't know what's about to happen with this Judgment Day stuff, but it looks like they're headed for a breakup.
I mean, longer overdue. So it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah, it ran its course.
It ran its course. I mean, they should have broken up last year, in my opinion. At SummerSlam. Which I mean, basically kind of did, but then obviously, I mean, they want to rebrand it. Bring Carlito, Liv. Well, Carlito's there, but they want to bring Liv and obviously Raquel into the mix. Kind of give it a new look. But I
Bro, you
mean,
didn't let Carlito do anything.
yeah, Carlito's been basically a jobber the entire run. I'm just like, what are
Yeah,
they
like
doing?
you didn't let Carlito do anything, and
I
Carlito's
mean,
a
it's almost a complete disservice to Carlito, being a company guy and obviously, being a veteran. And it's just, I mean, I would expect a lot more because he came back so jacked. You remember like a year or 2 years ago, he looked great. Obviously, at Great American Bash or the Bash in Puerto Rico, and I was expecting Carlito to kind of, have like a big push, maybe not a world title push, but at least like a better push than just being like, the fifth wheel. You know what I mean? So I mean,
um there the Jay and Gunther thing on the main event. Unless you're gonna hot shot the title on Jay, don't do this.
yeah, it's a waste of time. I mean, what are you trying to do? Again, back to like, what are you doing with Jay? Is he a jobber now? Is he a glorified, oh, he can't get it? What's the story? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, I
like
mean,
any because I'm sorry, Gunther's promo is so disrespectful to the point of where is this a work or is this a shoot?
yeah. And we don't
And we don't know. We don't know. That's what like, and I like the fact that we don't know because like a lot of times in the Attitude Era, we didn't know if we were being worked or if it was a shoot, and then it was a shoot that was turned into a work. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know a lot of this, and I'm not saying that is that they didn't know what was about to happen then. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that listen, guys, if you mess this up right now, the crowd's not gonna get. You're not gonna get J Mania. The crowd's over hero pushes. We used up all of our energy on Daniel Bryan, Kofi, and Cody. There is no replicating this because they all went through a different type of adversity than Jay. And I hate to say it, but Jay hasn't been on the bottom of the company ever, ever.
always
Because
been the tag team mix, always been the mid card.
right, they retired the Dudleys, him and his brother, and that's kind of what started their. So even before the bloodline story started, I think if we go back to Jay and Jimmy retiring the Dudleys, then that's what kickstarted this whole reign of dominance with the Samoan dynasty. And obviously Roman transferred when he came back from his illness, and he joined the heels because remember the Usos were heels before Roman was.
Yeah. And I just want to do a time check because we're almost out on time, and I just want to show love to my guy, who loves Bailey and loves Penta. Number 85, George Kittle, who always does the celebration every time he gets these scores touch first down, touchdown. Yeah,
Mayo.
exactly, Mayo. I mean, George Kittle, I didn't even know anything honestly about Penta until George started doing the celebration. So,
I got a
that
shirt. I like Penta. I have for years. I didn't
yeah.
want him to go to AEW. I wanted him to sign with WWE during the bidding wars of 2020.
Yes, sir. But I'm glad he made it. And obviously AEW, we'll talk about that a different day. Any last thoughts before you adjourn today?
Um, hey guys, stay safe out there in California. My sister's out there, and she says it's kind of ugly. So
Yes, sir. No, definitely appreciate that. Yeah, everyone in the LA Fires, our hearts go out to you. Follow us at DOG Podcast, YouTube, Instagram. Follow my boy, Soul Reaper, Mr. 10K, right? On IG. Follow us, on all socials. Follow us, spread the word, subscribe. And we will be back next week to not only recap divisional, but talk NFC, AFC Conference Championships, and who we think is going to the Super Bowl. Take care, y'all. Stay safe. God bless. Peace.